he didn't appreciate being heckled. But the main reason we play that is because our next guest was actually one of his teachers in, I believe, a tennis class. Let's find out. All-time Kings icon and legend, Jerry Reynolds with us. How are you, Jer?
I'm really good, and yeah, I appreciate playing a little Mellencamp. I think that's great. I'm sorry to hear he's getting a little crusty in his old age. I'm not surprised, by the way, because he just my little short experience with him. He was a little on the edge.
Was it tennis class that you had him in?
It was a racket sports class. So yeah, that was badminton and tennis. And I don't recall. He had a tendency to, in that one semester he's there, to miss quite a few of them.
Jer, we were just having a discussion here about the Kings defense, which appears to be, it looks like they're getting some traction there. Jay he's much wiser than I am, and he's like, a little skeptical. He wants to see more. But what stands out to you about how much better the Kings defense seems to be over the last 4 games or so?
Well, I do think it's better. I think, I kind of like what Coach Brown's doing, playing a little more zone. I think that, gives them a little tempo change. And, of course, the fact that Duarte and Ellis, getting more time, I think they bring a little bit of a physical focus to the defensive end. And I got to say, Duarte's growing on me a little.
Really?
He's growing on me a little. Yeah, I'm about ready to take back some of the bad words I said about him early in the year.
Legend, are you and I know you have a very keen eye compared to me. Do you see speaking of defense, how much has Keon Ellis really, I guess as Whitey said, pushed this defense to being salvageable?
Well, he really has, because he's one of those guys that can guard. Certainly on switches, he can guard just about anybody. I mean, preferably he's very comfortable guarding 1s or 2s. Up to 5'6", 6'6". He has no problem with that. And the other part is, I think he's really not just a good individual defender, but he has a real sense of team defense. And he really is great at help. And, like I say, his on-ball defense probably isn't any better than Davion's, but, his help defense, he's kind of a small version of Michael Cooper in my mind. Old people would remember how good Coop was in the days with the Lakers, but he was 6'6", so he guarded basically big guards and small forwards, whereas Keon's more of a 1-2 kind of guy.
Jer, that's actually a very current reference compared to some other ones we've had today. We talked a lot about Rick Barry, and we were comparing the Kings to the 79 Sonics with, Jack Sikma as Sabonis, and I think Gus Williams is De'Aaron Fox, and Malik Monk is Freddie Brown. So we've just been spending quite a lot of time wandering down memory lane today.
Yeah, well, you sure have. I mean, and then you'd had Keegan Murray as John Johnson, I suppose, too, right?
Go. Yeah.
And, of course, I remember John Johnson and Freddie Brown when they were junior college players, when I was coached in junior college. And, Freddie punished us a little bit. And, that was one of those unusual teams that didn't have, a championship team, but they didn't really have a top. None of their best players were top 5 guys. Mm-hmm. They had some all-stars, but, a little bit like the 2004 Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
And so, I think those two teams both had some probably more talented teams kind of get beat due to injuries and give them their chance, not to take anything away from them. But anyway.
Yeah.
So, that's going back, fellas. That challenges me a little bit.
Kevin Huerter, we found out today it's a dislocated left shoulder. Other than that, we don't know. We don't know the surgery or when he could be back. We don't know. So it looks like Keon Ellis is starting for the foreseeable. How does that, would you guess, affect the rotation and the offense? I mean, that's more shots for somebody else if Keon's in and Huerter's out, right?
Yeah, I would say probably, well, clearly they're going to play Monk every minute he can play, and certainly, Monk doesn't need any encouragement to get one up, and he shouldn't. But I think Keegan Murray might benefit the most in that situation because he'll need to look for a shot a little bit more, and I think certainly Domas can find him on some of the dribble handoffs and just screens and things like that. So I think he'll benefit the most. I think Keon is going to make shots. He's going to make open shots. But he's really not going to force the issue there. He's looking to defend, to move the ball, and take the shots that the defense gives him.
Talking with the legendary Jerry Reynolds. Legend, this is something me and Whitey have kind of talked about a little bit today, and it sounds like Sasha Vezenkov is close. And when I say close, it could be as tomorrow or maybe 2 weeks from now. So I want to make sure I put that preface at that. But with your experience with 15 games left and, Sasha kind of not playing a lot this season, what would you try to implement him into the rotation right now, or would you kind of hold back on that?
Well, I think you'd want to try to get him some minutes, and I know exactly what you're saying. It's a good point, but I think with Trey Lyles out, there's probably minutes for him, and because the one thing about him, I think, with Sasha, that besides making shots, I mean, he's a pretty tough customer. He competes and rebounds per minute about as well as Lyles, if not better. So I think, it's probably a pretty good chance to get him some minutes to see, maybe get some idea of how he can be used. And I think that's one of the great things about Coach Brown. I think he's really good at kind of spotting guys to find out if maybe, where they can help him.
Yeah, the great Jerry Reynolds with us here. Jerry, this is a good day to talk about officiating because the Kings won, so it doesn't come across as a lot of belly aching. But De'Aaron Fox has mentioned a couple times post-game now how they're calling the games differently. He said after, I think, the Laker game, he said, we can pretend they're not calling it differently, but they are. He talked last night after the game just in passing about, you're getting tackled out there. Have you noticed any difference? It appears that they're letting more go now. And if that's true, do you think that might help or hurt the Kings, given that they're not the strongest defensive team?
Well, I really do agree. They're calling it. They're letting a lot of more stuff go.
Yeah.
I think in general, I like it. I mean, they're allowing it to be a more physical game, not so many tic-tac fouls. I don't really like them to hit Domas in the face and force him to double dribble. I wasn't in favor of that type stuff. But no, I think in the long run, I think more. It's like the Knick game. I got to be honest. I enjoyed that type of defense. You had to earn your baskets. Every point you kind of was. So it's a little bit of a throwback. Not quite to the bad boy Pistons or anything, but definitely they're allowing more stuff to go. They're giving defenders a little better chance. Where the guards dribble in and jump into them, and they're not given automatically those guys free throws when they create the contact. So all in all, I'm in favor of how they're letting them more physical. I'm not in favor of the fact that some of the refs aren't very good. That bothers me.
Do you think that might help the Kings, a team that struggles defensively, if you get you're allowed a little more leeway?
Well, I think it'll help some. It could. I mean, I think the Kings have to be basically ready to play more physical because you'll be allowed to. I think there's other teams that it might benefit even more, like the Nuggets, for one, not that they need a lot of help. Of course, I think sadly, it'll help the Lakers. That's the way I always look at it. I want to look at first who it might help the most.
Yeah.
And that I don't like that. I mean, in my mind, if it helps the Lakers at all, then I'd just assume they do something else.
Jerry, Memphis, Toronto, Washington, Orlando. When I see those 4 games for me, and it's not a make or break here for the Kings by any means of stretch because you have Dallas right after that and Phoenix out the back end. But with that being said, You've been in the coaching position. You see those 4 teams and you know you're in a fight. What are you saying to yourself?
Well, you're saying these are games. They're not only winnable games, but they're games that must be won, and but they're road games. And so I say, even when all games on the road, good teams, bad teams, are always hard to win. And but as you pointed out, I mean, you've got the Phoenixes and the Dallases coming up, far more important games, but get the wins where you can, and that gives you a little bit more of flexibility, because some of those games later on against the better teams are going to be a little harder to get even. So Washington, Toronto were struggling; they got guys out. So go get the W's. And now Orlando's a different deal. I mean, they're a nice young team, and they're fighting for a spot. So you're going to get them at their best.
Coach, we'll let you go on this one. Appreciate your time. Phoenix is, they've got those 3 stars, but their schedule's really tough. I'm starting to think it comes down to the Kings and Dallas for that 6th spot. They've got 2 games coming up next week. Do you agree? Do you think maybe this is going to be a 2-team race for the 6th spot?
Well, I think it's those 3. I think Phoenix, Dallas, and the Kings are really going to be in it. I kind of felt that Dallas would be the 3rd of that group. I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
Getting Gafford was a big addition for them, and I think he's made them better. So it bothers me that they've gotten better as both those teams got better.
Yeah.
Picking up guys, Royce O'Neal for Phoenix. So. Yeah. By the way, you said that the Phoenix got 3 stars. I'm not all sure Grayson Allen in the star. That guy makes shots and makes plays. And ask the Bucks if they kind of, I don't know if they admit it, but they kind of miss him.
Oh, and how about, speaking of the Suns, they added one of your favorites is back, Isaiah Thomas.
IT.
Yeah, gosh, that's great to see IT. I mean, that guy, what a sad thing. There it was, 3rd in MVP that year and played hurt, got 52 in a game 7, played on a bad hip, and of course his sister had passed in a car accident. I mean, the guy, one of the all-time best guys ever. It was in Sacramento, and of course Kings traded him for chopped liver, and brilliant move, I might add. The guy is just a terrific player when he's here, and he was terrific. Like Danny Ainge told me he said, yeah, we weren't very good when we got Isaiah Thomas. We became a playoff team.
Yeah.
I said, yeah, there you go.
Good to see. Thanks as always. Appreciate it very much. Talk to you soon, Jerry.
Guys, be good. Take care. Thanks.
Yeah, there you go. I knew that Isaiah is one of his all-time favorites.
I like where you went with that.
Let's see. Do we have